Well, senior international correspondent Ben Weyderman joining me now from Beirut. He is live at the scene of the airstrikes in the Lebanese capital. Ben.
Yes, Becky, those airstrikes took place at about 1 a.m. Local time. The target was that flat in that building. And we understand that killed in that strike were 3 members of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, which is a Palestinian group that frankly hasn't been particularly active, certainly here in Lebanon in recent years. But they were 3 members of the group related to security and politics as well. And we spoke to one of the people who lives in an adjacent building who said he heard the missile come in and then heard the explosion, but he said he had no idea who was living in that particular flat, and stressed that it's important at this point to know who's living in your building. But as you can see, there's still sort of the rubble spread all over the place. They've been trying to clean up the neighboring buildings. Now, yes, as we've pointed out, it is important to keep in mind that this is the first Israeli strike outside what is commonly known as a dahiya. That's Arabic simply for suburb, but the southern suburbs in particular, where Hezbollah has a very strong presence. This area, the Kola Bridge, is well known. It's a mixed area of various religious sects and others. So it does represent a broadening, or the first step perhaps, in a broadening of Israel's campaign in Lebanon to not only include those who have been involved in hostilities in the border, but other groups, militant groups, Palestinian groups, who don't have a particularly active presence at this point in Lebanon. Becky?
These strikes described as targeted by the Israelis. Can you describe, firstly, very specifically where you are? I think you've explained the significance of this very specific strike, coming as it does within the city limits. Can you just describe the impact on the Lebanese living in Beirut of these targeted attacks?
Well, what we've seen essentially since last Monday is that many people have left. In fact, almost all the inhabitants have left the southern suburbs of Beirut because the Israelis have put out specific warnings for certain buildings. And many people left those areas thinking that the dahiya, the southern suburbs, would be the target of Israel's airstrikes. Clearly, this is a message that they're going to spread those airstrikes beyond that area. And just to give you an idea where we are, this is right here, it's known as the Kola Bridge. Under it is a Lebanese army position. This bridge takes you to the heart of Beirut, straight ahead. It's an overpass, normally very busy. And it's an area, as I said before, it is not I think it has a Sunni Muslim majority, but there are Christians, there are others who actually live here. So it's not an area affiliated or associated with any political group or activity. It's just sort of a normal area of a city that's very busy and has lots of traffic and shops and whatnot. But it is not of any sort of strategic, political, or military significance, just significant, obviously, to the residents of Beirut who fear that targets will be spreading to areas that until now they thought might be relatively safe. Becky?